All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. My name is Milla Jostin. I am the Associate Director of Athletics Communications here at the Citadel. We are pleased to have Coach Ciaran Traquair on today. Ciaran, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, everybody. Just with the way lockdown has went, I was on this Zoom at 10 o'clock this morning. I didn't think anybody was going to show up. It shows you how on top of things I've been. To go along with that, someone left my house yesterday and I wished them that they would have a great weekend, even though it was a Tuesday morning. So this is probably a bit more routine for me to get on here and speak a little bit about the programme. So delighted to do it. Thank you for coming on, everybody that's here. Thanks to Village. I'm sure he'll be fantastic in his early moderating days. Maybe he's got a political future in this.
All right, just a reminder to everybody, you were muted when you came on, but we please ask that you stay muted until the end. If you wish to ask a question while this is going on, just feel free to use the chat feature. You can either direct chat with me if you don't want to ask in front of the whole group, or just put it in the open group. But we do have a set of questions that have already been submitted, and we're going to go ahead and get started with that. Coach, kind of talk us through what the last couple months have been like for you and your family, and even interacting with the girls, having to do everything from afar versus in person.
Interestingly enough, since I got to the USA in 2003, this is the most time I've spent at home in the last 17 years. So there's, as I'm sure you will all agree, there is many benefits to that, and then there's also some frustrations that you never get to leave the front door. But it's been good. I mean, it's a difficult period for everybody, especially for us. You know, we choose the career path we're in because we like to be around the kids and we like to be on the field and we like to interact with recruits and their families. Not having the opportunity to do that in person has been challenging. But you know, I've really got to know my kids, which has been excellent, and I've seen a lot of growth in them over the last 2 or 3 months. What's been difficult on top of that is not really knowing how the lockdown and the quarantine and stuff would impact the players other than through a phone call, and also whether it would impact how their grades would show at the end of the semester. But they did a fantastic job. So really it's just pats on the back for everybody and a desire to get out of here and get back on the field, which it looks like June 15th we'll be back to the office for good, which is a real positive sign for everyone in the department, and you know, a little confidence booster for the players, knowing that the coaches are back and grinding every day in the office in preparation for, hopefully, NCAA permitting, a regular pre-season and a regular season come August. But we've not had many outbursts or outcries from the players. I think they've handled it really well. I'm sure they would probably agree with me that it's been good for them. Certainly the ones that have been at the Citadel for 3+ years, it's been good for them to get back and maybe get to know their families a little bit better now as young adults versus what they were when they left at 17, 18 years old. And then also for the parents of those players, you know, they get to see the growth in their kids from what they invested in when they first came here. You know, is that 17-year-old who's now a 20-year-old, have they developed the way that we thought the Citadel was going to develop them, and has their natural growth been to a standard that their parents would hope for? I would imagine that other than just the natural feeling of having your children home, there's probably a lot of pride in the fact that those kids came back and have been able to handle whatever the adversity is for them, whether it be missing their friends, missing Charleston, missing their coaches, possibly, I don't know, maybe that's one of the things, or just missing the routine, because obviously you come from the Citadel. Routine is a very big thing, and not having that routine, I'm sure, unless their parents are right up their backside every day, that they could potentially fall away from getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning to getting up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That's probably realistic for some people out there. But as I said, the ones that have been in this for a few years, the routine is probably so ingrained in them at this point, which we hope it is, because that's the way you want them to live their life for the next 20, 30 years. That handling the adversity, whatever it may be, back at home has not been as challenging as, say, the average college student. But as you can probably tell, we're kind of ready to get after it here again and do what we're paid to do and get these kids that deserve to be here back on the field as soon as possible.
I know I'm really excited to get back. I miss being able to be out at practice and games and stuff, to photograph and do video and interact with all of y'all. we'll start right away with one of the submitted questions. It was actually asked a couple times. What are some of the things that you and your staff and the strength and conditioning staff and others have been doing to keep the team connected and keep them motivated during this interesting times between COVID and the last few weeks even? Just kind of touch on some of the things that y'all been doing to keep still that team feeling.
Funnily enough, we probably get more communication now that we don't see the kids than we do when they're actually on campus. We don't have to share their time as much with all the different aspects of what the Citadel is. But a lot of the times through our group communication on our texting app on GroupMe, it's just passing on information and making sure everybody's remembering why they're here in the first place and what the ultimate goal would be once we get back open. It's been exciting to adapt. Like, how do you adapt when not only do you have kids scattered out across the country, you have kids in Japan. A great example would be us trying to have a team meeting. We try and do those Zoom meetings once a week, or we did up until the end of finals. Now it's been once every couple of weeks. I'm trying to find a suitable time when the local time in Osaka is plus 13 hours, the East Coast time. It's difficult. We're asking Suzuki to get out of bed at 5 o'clock in the morning to be part of a Zoom meeting and to try and engage. So we've tried to do that where it's somewhat challenging. We brought on a professional soccer player that went to high school with me back in Scotland. She's a Scottish national team player. So we brought her on to speak to the girls just about how she's handling being at home when she's expected to compete at a professional level, and then how she's going to get back on the field and what her ambition was as a college player. She played in the US. I think that was good for the kids to hear. As someone who's 30 years old, who's kind of been there and done that, is still really ambitious and is not using the coronavirus situation to get down on herself, but just to drive forward and get probably more competitive when the opportunity arises to get back on the field. We also did a team quiz, which we were trying to steal some ideas from other people, asking the kids to go get things from their living room and their kitchen, but it probably didn't go as smooth as what we'd thought, especially when you include animals and pets in there. But yeah, no, generally it's been good. You can only do so much. I'm sure all of you out there are doing regular meetings online. And as I said at the start of this conversation, we're very much an in-person industry. If we're going to impact people, we really need to interact with them and engage with them in person. So we're limited in what we can do there, but we have a staff that's invested in the kids. By all means, our whole mantra as a staff is to exist pretty much to make sure that they develop and get better and enjoy the Division 1 experience that we provide here at the Citadel. And that goes across the board. So it's not just ourselves that have been engaging. We've had people in the administration. Strength and conditioning is obviously a huge part of it. The girls interact through an app called Team Builder, where they can be held accountable, but they can also, it's not so much a roster where you check off people are doing what they're supposed to do. It's very much a Q&A type as well, where you can ask, is my form correct and the weights that I'm lifting? Am I reaching a certain standard? Is there a time that I have to get? There's video interaction there where the players can record themselves and send it in. The coaches can record stuff back. For me, what we provide there with that Team Builder app, the investment we have in it, and the fact that the strength and conditioning coaches really care about it, it's as professional as it can get at this level. It really is, especially with the situation we're in here with people being stuck at home. Some people have access to a track, some people don't. Some people have access to a weight room. Some people are in different time zones. The fact that we can do all of this at home is phenomenal, but we absolutely are ready to get back at it and do this in person.
Great. And along the same lines, staying with the quarantine and how it's affecting things, how has it affected recruiting? You have your 2020 class pretty much set, but you still have some that have to get their paperwork and all that in. But you're starting on the 2021 cycle, and you're not allowed to necessarily talk about them per se right now, but kind of what's been the difference in not being able to go to a classic or to a tournament or even to any of the high school games? And then also, what's it like talking to those girls, the high school kids that, you know, their season was cut short and now they have to kind of go based off of previous years?
Certainly a different recruiting process to what I've been used to in the years that I've been doing this at several different institutions. probably the most passionate part of recruiting is getting out on the road and seeing kids and then bringing them back to your campus. Obviously, with the NCAA dead period, that is no longer a thing up until July 31, I think it is, and that possibly been extended further. There was 3 big tournaments that we typically hit in the spring. Some of those tournaments produced kids on our team right now. One of them would have been a trip to Las Vegas in March, which obviously is one of the highlights of the recruiting calendar, getting to Vegas. A big one in New Jersey, which would have been last weekend, Memorial Weekend. And then one in Virginia, Jefferson Cup. Not being able to get to those 3 really hurts us, especially the 2 on the East Coast, where you see the best kids in the country and you see kids that you've already highlighted, and you're able to turn interest into a recruit, and then a recruit potentially into a committed person who's going to be part of your program for 4 years. We've had to, again, just shift everything to an online mode, but the fact that we recruit 2 years in advance, generally across the board in Division 1 women's soccer, has been beneficial. If we were stuck in a position maybe like some other sports come February or March, where our 2020 class was only 50% complete, I think this would be a very challenging time, and there'd certainly be some nervous moments in looking forward to a fall season, not knowing if you're going to even complete your recruiting class. We've been very thorough for the 2020s, knowing that was going to be the end of a 4-year cycle. When we brought in that 2017 class, we knew we would have a very experienced senior class, and this 2020 class would have to complement that and everyone in between. So that work was done on the back end. Now, is it easy to keep those kids engaged, knowing that we can't really speak to them about what we're doing as a group? We're weights and stuff until they graduate from high school. It's not been easy, but those kids have known each other for almost 2 years in the 2020 class. So there's almost a bond there in their preparation, that their ultimate goal was to come here and be knobs in August or July and August for Athletic Cadre. That hasn't changed. And then now that most of them have graduated and they're in the cycle of hearing from us on the group message and hearing from the strength and conditioning coaches, they probably feel as much of the team as anybody else on there. So I'm excited about 2020. There's 3 more kids, 2 internationals, 1 potential graduate student transfer that we would add, or we're hoping to add on top of what we have right now with the 20 class. And that would complete us and probably give us the most well-rounded group of kids we've had since I've been here, and potentially in the history of the programme, which has always been the goal of mine, to start to achieve on a level that's never been achieved. And 2020 could be that, depending on what that season looks like. If we were setting ourselves out to have the best season record in programme history and the NCAA decided to cut the amount of games we can play, then that obviously is going to be a different story. But it's all geared towards success. If you add the 2021 class on that, we were fortunate to get 2 verbal commitments prior to the lockdown happening, and we would probably have worked through 2 or 3 more if we were allowed to set up the visits and get them on. We had 2 or 3 visits set up for April that obviously did not go ahead for 2021s. The interest level's still there on our part, and the interest level's still there on the part of the athletes. They will probably be on campus as soon as this dead period ends. And we would like to get that 2021 class done by December, but we're not completely done in terms of evaluation for 2021. So we need to get back out on the fields and highlight certain individuals between now and then to be able to start the process of getting them to campus. But we've got a good idea of what 2021 looks like. And if we go back to the point I made there about 2017 being that first real big class that I brought in since I've been here at the programme, we've known for a while that if they're able to make the impact that they have done, and if they're able to make the impact that they do as seniors, or we expect them to do as seniors, then the 2021 class is going to be very crucial in carrying on the standards that the programme has set and everything that they do as athletes, but also to help us maintain a level of success and then be even better than what we are in 2020. So even though the 20s are crucial to making sure that this is one of the best years in programme history, we absolutely have to get to the 21s right. But they're off to a good start with what we've had so far, and we're very, very excited about what that's going to look like.
Great. And we're going to kind of stick a little bit with the recruiting trend there. I'm going to make this a 2-part question. We received a question in the chat. So first off, how do you recruit to a place like the Citadel? And then the second part is, and then before that though, what was your path to the Citadel, so that now how do you sell a school that, you know, you've only been here 4 years, you're going into your 5th year. kind of give your background and then your background heading into the Citadel and how you're able to sell this place.
I think first and foremost, not being from the USA, embarking on the journey of being a scholarship athlete myself, coming to a different environment, coming to an area where, you know, people think differently, talk differently, all of that. This was always something that in a general sense that I felt was just a real privilege. So being in the USA, being part of a scholarship program, competing at this level, all of that was an amazing opportunity for me when it first happened in 2003. I've never really lost that feeling. So being given an opportunity to coach college soccer at any level, my first head coaching job being Wesleyan College, which was one of the lower end Division 3 schools in the country, it was, for me, as good as it could have gotten at that time. I was doing my dream job. I was coaching kids on a daily basis. I was getting paid to be on the field every day. I don't think that'll ever leave me. And if that leaves me at any point, then maybe this is not the industry I need to stay in. And maybe I can fall back on my my MBA at some point. But I think you've got to look at what the job provides in general in this industry and see it as an absolute privilege. To build through the levels that I've came from. I started in NAIA as a coach, as a GA. Then I moved to a junior college team. Then I moved to a Division 2 team, a Division 3 team, back to Division 2 team, and then into Division 1. So I've really covered every level, and I've enjoyed every step that I've been at. Getting to the Citadel and been fortunate enough to be hired here. I think a lot of people maybe look down on the job through the interview process. I was a 30-year-old coach who was privileged to coach college soccer, and I was fortunate enough to be given the opportunity to come here and coach. I thought, what a great opportunity to come to Charleston, South Carolina, take on a program that's not had much success in the previous couple of years, and try and make it a very competitive team in the conference and the region. That is still the thing that gets me out of the bed every morning. Can I make this program one that competes and one that really puts itself on the map? I think we're slowly getting into that. Slowly getting into that stride where we don't want to be finishing on the bottom half of the conference. We want to be on the top end. That's kind of where the program's headed. But, you know, if you have that humility about yourself and accepting that this job and this opportunity here at the Citadel is a very special one, then it's very easy to share your passion with potential recruits. And I think if we meet with families, if they decide that they're against the Citadel, I have no doubt in my mind they'll leave campus thinking those guys love coaching there. Those guys believe absolutely 100% in what the school provides. And we do. I don't think there's anybody in our staff that doesn't, on a daily basis, look at it and think, man, some of the stuff that goes on here is just bizarre. Like, we don't understand this, we don't understand that, and we want to find more and more about it. But we're in an environment with so many special people, guys that have tremendous military experience, guys with tremendous leadership experience, and we're kind of working alongside them to provide an opportunity for young kids that is unique in itself in the state, but also nationwide. There's only one or two, three maybe institutions like us. I think it's an easy sell. You look at the academic prowess of the school, you look at what our kids do when they graduate. Probably the missing piece for me when I look back on where we've been for the last 3 years, 4 years, we didn't quite provide the highest of a Division 1 athletic experience. And that was small things that needed changing. What we provided from an equipment standpoint, the shape of the facility, the staffing, not having enough staff there, the way we travelled, the things we ate on the road, and the extra little pieces that other big Division 1 programs are able to provide and other programs in the SOCOM are providing. We felt like we needed to start doing that, and it was something I wanted to do from day one. But it's been a gradual process to the point now where, in my opinion, we offer as good a Division 1 experience as a soccer athlete, regardless of whether it's at a military institution or not, than anybody else in the conference. So we, at face value, we feel like we're going to give every kid that walks through our door the best opportunity to succeed at the Division 1 level. If we can back that up by saying we fully believe in what this institution will provide you if you buy in, I think it's an amazing opportunity for young kids.
And part of that Division 1 experience we've gotten to see, especially recently, has been the improvement to the dog pound. And then your locker room, I understand, is going under a bit of facelift as well. And then in recent years, I've even seen WLI Field becoming a lot more of a better playing surface, probably one of the better natural surfaces in the conference. Kind of talk about what those improvements have done for when you recruit somebody and when you're able to take them around campus and show them those locations.
Those three places are probably where our cadet athletes spend most of their time. So any upgrade in that department, even if it was just to put 6 Gatorades in a fridge, the kids notice quickly. We've done a little bit more than that. What I think is important about what we've done in the facility, we've made a little go a long way. Our locker room, it needed a facelift because it was old, but it also needed additional lockers because I inherited a squad of 18 players 4 years ago. We will likely have 33 players on the roster come this fall, almost doubling the size of our roster. There needs to be space for those kids, or we have to manage the space correctly. But we've done that with support of the administration and the fundraising. The foundation's helped us really get to a point where we could invest in video equipment in the locker room, brand new lockers, screening the walls, making it a little bit more 2020 so that when the kids walk in, they appreciate the space they're in, but also when the recruits walk in, they can see themselves in there as a genuine Division 1 athlete. The field, the comments from the opposition coaches in the last 12 months, this is as good as anything in the conference. Where we lack in that in comparison to Samford, UNCG, Furman is a space to support that, whether it be a stand or an entranceway, something that gives it more of a stadium feel, a fence even, versus just having a very nice surface. I think our kids appreciate the surface, and they hear from me all the time about making sure you appreciate what you get here, because not every program has that. There may have been a feeling in the past, certainly the group I inherited, that what they had maybe wasn't as good as what everyone else had. You're not going to have the same as everybody else, but I think you can appreciate the standard of the field, the locker room, the facilities. But Mike Dunkerley, who works on our field daily, passionate about making sure that the product he puts out is something that the players appreciate, and that the opposition come and say, you know what, whoever does that does a really good job. And in the weight room, I mean, those guys are as hard-working, working-class mindset and mentality as you get. They spend most of their life in there. They want their space to look as professional as they can make it. And they raised a tremendous amount of money to make that facility a genuine Division 1 place where not only can kids develop, but just feel proud when they're in there. If you're going to be in there with 60 athletes, you want it to feel like a place that people are getting better, people are enjoying, and you want to keep coming back to it. I think what they've done in there is amazing, and it just shows you a bit of belief, a bit of support. You can really make small spaces look very presentable and very professional. So I couldn't pat the strength and conditioning room on the back enough. From those guys who were part of the interview process for me, they are absolutely true to what they say. They are in it for the right reasons, and they're going to do everything in their power to make sure that our kids get the best of the best. It is only going to improve in there. So if you're a future athlete coming to Citadel, you're going to get the best weight room experience that has ever existed, and that is going to keep being the same mantra from them every year that we move forward here.
You mentioned, having some of the best equipment and some of the best facilities. One of the best backgrounds that we've ever seen for a soccer game, and people that were here in the 80s and the 90s, they got to enjoy this a lot from what I've seen in the history books, but we haven't really enjoyed it a whole lot recently. But this year you played a game on the parade deck, and one of our submitted questions was, will there be more games played on the parade deck, parade grounds in the future seasons?
We certainly hope so. We were in the works of discussing which game we could potentially select that would fit within the cadet calendar, and also one that we feel getting a little bit more support out there on the parade deck would really benefit us to try and get a victory. We were in discussions for the 2020 season. Obviously, we've been off campus. So that's not something that's continued, but I would like to think that the way the first one went last year against the Naval Academy, we've got a great opportunity to go back out there and do the same thing. It was certainly an all-hands-on-deck approach to it. It's a little bit more challenging to get the video equipment out there, to get the stand set up correctly, to paint a field over there, move goals. But we've always been a fairly willing sport, so if it's coaches helping out to make that happen, we'll do it. and there's not too much that needs to be done. All those little things I just mentioned, it is extra work on the staff, and it's a small staff that we have across the board here, but it makes for a phenomenal experience. I think the photographs just from that event, I mean, they can sell themselves from a recruiting standpoint. Like, look how amazing this facility is. Look how amazing this setting is. We were here playing the Naval Academy. We lost the game 4-1, but we came back out of a lightning delay. We were 2-0 down. We got it back to 2-1. And for a good 5-10 minute spell there, it was a very, very even game. And had we got the second goal to make it 2-2 with all the fans, there's a chance we could have got a victory. So maybe the future was an opportunity to play them again. I would say to highlight a team on the calendar, you've obviously got to look at VMI. Can we play VMI on the parade deck where there's 3 points up for grabs? And, you know, you really need to get that home victory and get maybe twice as many fans on the parade deck as possible. None of this is possible unless you have the support of the administration. And to go beyond our athletic department thinking it's a great idea for the student athletes, the president of the campus thought it was a tremendous event when we did it in the fall. I would hope that continues to be the case, that we get approval to do it, we get it in the books early, and the natural one would be VMI, but I've kind of had in my sight for a while taking one of the big dogs, taking a game out of their place to get a return in South Carolina. It's not on the calendar for 20 or 21, but maybe 22. You know, we could get a Clemson or a South Carolina, go play away and then return them back to campus. And if we did that, then get that on the parade deck, I think that would be the pinnacle of what these kids can get, to play against the best players that the country has to offer, national team players, and do it on, you know, sacred ground right out there in the parade deck. The event is fantastic, but if you can get a victory with that, I would say that our kids right now, the ones that played in the game last year, regardless of the score, I bet they look back on that experience and say it was probably one of the highlights of being a college soccer player at the Citadel, the opportunity they got to play on the parade deck.
We're going to switch gears a little bit. You touched on it a little bit before, talking about your current team. You already said it's probably the deepest. It's definitely the biggest since you've been here. I remember when I came and my first season was 2017. You had 13 or 14 healthy bodies at the end of the season for that Mercer tournament game. Kind of just talk about the returners you have. You've got a great nucleus of seniors, juniors, and sophomores. Just talk about what they've meant to the program in their first 3 years.
I feel like I've had this conversation a million times with people, because it's a sense of pride in that you build a recruiting class. Those kids came in, the upcoming seniors came in, were maybe 12 to 15 strong as freshmen. I think there's 8 of them left. People transferred. Other kids are still here on campus, but no longer part of the team through their own decision making. But looking at what they've achieved, and before those kids got on campus, our first phone calls with the seniors, I can remember it clearly. It was basically, I'm new here, we need new players. Are you willing to come and join the journey of what this crazy place is going to provide over the next 4 years? And the ones that bought into that, I think I said at the start of this conversation, I feel like the maturity level of them now as people is incredible in comparison. Not that they were immature, but I would put them up against any college graduate in the country. I mean, these kids are exceptional. Their grades just stand out above everybody. And I constantly talk about setting standards to them. They set standards and then set their own standards beyond that. We bring freshmen in this year and we say, this is the standard of the programme. This is how you train. This is how you behave off the field. This is how you're supposed to take care of your business in the classroom. It's there on the wall. We can see it. I don't have to lie to the kids. I don't have to change statistics. It's easy to prove. This is what our kids have done over the last couple of years. The thing that they're missing is that winning season and that potential chance to go to a Final Four in the conference tournament and maybe win a conference championship. Whether we can do that this year, obviously we have no idea, but it has to be the goal with those kids to go out on the biggest high that they possibly can and to really reach the pinnacle as a cadet athlete. Because for me, they've already reached the top in everything else they do. Representing the school, being great cadets, being great athletes, being good in the community, they're already there. The final piece is to be the best Citadel soccer player that can be here. So if I look at the general outlook of the group, I think it's 8 seniors with potentially 3 graduate students and 1 transfer. I mean, that's an 11 right there that is at least all 20, 21, 22 years old. I don't think there'll be many teams in the conference that can have that level of experience. You look at the older class as well, our upcoming seniors, the majority of those kids have upwards of 45 college soccer games under their belt. Not many to pay dividends at some point, and I've kept telling the kids that there'll be a point where you're standing on the field and maybe everybody you're looking at is not quite as big, not quite as strong, not quite as fast, because you've already got to that level yourself. And at that point, you'll start to see these results change and they'll go in your favour. Having the graduate students obviously complements those kids. So, we have one coming from College of Charleston, played a lot of minutes last year. We have one coming from the ACC who played at Notre Dame. She was the captain for them. Those kids will be invaluable, but it won't be as necessary as it has been in the past when we brought graduate students in and say, listen, you're going to be with a younger group, a younger bunch, and you're going to have to take on a leadership role very quickly because you are going to be the oldest and most experienced kids. We've had to do that with graduate students in the last 2 years. Now it's going to be come in here and standing right alongside you is going to be people the exact same age as you, with the same amount of experience. You're here to complement them, they'll complement you. If we can put all that together with what's behind them, knowing that we have an all-conference player who was a freshman last year, 3 or 4 freshmen that played tons of minutes, 1 or 2 of the incoming class that are going to push straight away to compete for minutes with 22-year-olds and graduate transfers. The mix is there, and it is the best balance that we've had across the board since I've got here in 2016. And it's kind of what I've been working towards. A lot of people told me when I got here, having been successful in the previous institutions, it was usually 18 to 24 months turnaround from what I inherited to the success then happening in real time. I was always told that at Division 1 level it's going to take you 4 years, and maybe the situation I inherited here, it maybe take longer. I'm kind of ready for that 4th year. If that stays true to what everybody said, and that was people with experience in Division 1, guys that have been doing this a lot longer than me, it'll take you a full 4-year cycle to get there. So let's hope year 4, with the right balance, the experience, the quality, and then 1 or 2. Yeah, I think the best teams in this conference that win the conference, probably the case across the board in any sport here, you still need 1 or 2 really special players. I think we have 1 very special player that can change games, and 3 or 4 just behind her that are a great support act. We could potentially have 3 or 4 very special players in the fall, with about 7 or 8 right behind them as a support act. And then as deep a squad as you've ever had. Instead of playing those games with 13, 14 deep at the end of the season and looking across down the sideline and seeing a squad of 32, where they're just rotating sub after sub and they're wearing your young kids down, I think it's going to be like a good old heavyweight boxing match. We're going to be right there neck and neck the whole time. And hopefully those special players can provide the special situation for us where we go on and win as many games as we've done in any point since I've been here. I think we've won 25 games since the 2016 season. We would certainly like to get to 30, 35 very, very quickly.
And one of the things with bringing in all those kids and trying to find those kids that complement well and are able to do the athletic things, what is it like finding that balance between kids that can give you the grades as well as give you the results? Because your kids, they're the top GPA in the athletic department. And it's not just exercise science or anything like that. It's biology majors. You've got kids graduating early to get a head start on their MBAs and their masters in biology so they can become doctors and everything. What does it take to get that good balance of a true cadet student athlete?
I don't think it's by luck. Certainly our staff at this point are doing more research in the kids we bring in than we've ever done. I think part of that is we know what the standard is, therefore we've got to keep achieving that or go beyond it. We had a 3.74 or something in the semester there ending. It's hard to keep going beyond that because that is really setting a high bar for the kids that have got to come behind them. What do we do? Probably the biggest thing for me, I don't give my kids many, I see this with a lot of coaches, they give them many life lessons and speeches and stuff. We're not really about that. We're just very honest with our kids. But the big thing that I feel like we've owned at this programme, and it's on the players, not necessarily the staff, is that what you do here is recognised by everybody on campus. Like, it's very important, the image that you give off if it's an image of hard work and success, people appreciate it. None more so at the Citadel. Like, people really care about how you're doing and how you're representing this institution. We feel the same way as a staff. Like, if we're unprofessional or we carry ourselves poorly on the sidelines, we carry ourselves poorly off campus, it's more noticeable here than anywhere else because we set ourselves higher standards across the board. But they've really bought into owning that whole thing as a group. Comes from that senior class that's coming now, and everybody underneath. Like, we want to have the best GPA. We want to be recognised for anything we do in the community. We want to be recognised for what we do on the field and how we handle adversity and how we handle losses and whether we carry ourselves professionally and how we deal with opponents. And then we also want to be recognised, this is probably the biggest one now, is we want to be recognised for the achievements of the kids beyond the Citadel. And seeing all that on paper now, you just mentioned that people that are so ambitious in their life at 17, 18, 19 years old, they don't even need much advice or guidance from us. They take care of business on their own because they are so ambitious. So you do have paediatric surgeons in that group. You do have lawyers in that group. You have kids that are going to go to the highest level of government just within our soccer programme. And you have kids that people already are very proud that they're part of this institution. But I can only imagine 15, 20 years from now, those will be the kids, especially females, that they bring back to campus and say, this kid used to play here. How amazing that this kid was on one of our soccer teams and is now doing this in her life, whether it be a surgeon, a lawyer, someone that's high profile, a celebrity, who knows? We've got some TikTok celebrities already on the team. Maybe that'll open doors for somebody at some point. I'm not so sure, but they certainly believe that. So I'll let them continue. They're the ones that want to be ambitious about it. They can keep going. But yeah, that's it. I mean, we do our homework. We need to make sure that we get the right kids in the door. If they don't fit the institution, this is not an easy life. If you want an easy life and you think, you know what, I'm good at soccer, I'll come here and I can just put up with it, it's probably not going to work out. You're not going to be happy. And there's days you're going to be sad here. There's days that I'm sad. I'm sure there's days that all you people on here are sad when you go to work. But for the most part, you've got to appreciate what this provides. And then you've got to get over that hump after year one, year two, where no longer are you just appreciating what it provides. You're like proud of who you represent. And you carry that in everything you do in your daily life. We're starting to see that, and it is starting to pay dividends. Obviously, those grades, the recognition that our kids are getting on campus and off campus, it's more and more and more each year. So we hope to just keep adding to that. And if you're a 2020 or a 2021 or anything beyond that, you're walking into a locker room where we don't need to pin it up on the wall. This is what the standard is. This is what we expect of you. Actions speak louder than words. The kids will see it because the other people sitting beside them in the locker room live it on a daily basis. And how we created that, I don't know. Maybe in 10 years I'll have much clearer words to put that together and say, this is why we have what we have. I just think you bring in good people who take care of business and you can create a very successful culture very, very easily and very naturally.
You mentioned that they're, a bunch of self-starters and highly motivated. One of the things that the girls have really taken on a mantle of is y'all are working on a fund for the Low Country Food Bank through the Soccer Coaches United Against Hunger. Talk a little bit about that, and then we'll get into some more of these submitted questions.
Yeah, so this was an initiative created by 3 or 4 coaches in the higher ends of Division 1 and the Power 5 that I guess were sitting at home, maybe didn't have young children, and thought, let's come up with something that we can provide across the board as women's soccer coaches, something we can engage our players in. And they came up with this idea. Usually when they do that, we just support it because we feel like it's the right thing to do. But once it became, the reason you're doing this is to impact locally, and the Low Country Food Bank, who we served a couple of years ago, we took the team up there, it takes on a little bit more emphasis of let's make this successful. They told us to select a player on the team, and we chose Logan Dix, who is one of the brightest kids you've ever met in your life, and someone who is passionate and probably exemplifies the hardest working mentality that you can have as a player on the field. She just empties the tank every day. So I thought if we can get 10% of that put into trying to raise funds for the Low Country Food Bank, we're on the right path, and she's well respected throughout the team. We hope we can raise money. I think 3,000 is a target across the board. Every Division 1 institution, I believe, is doing this. So 331, maybe give or take a couple millage for women's soccer programs. I think that times 3,000, I can't do the math in my head, that's not my specialty, but that is a lot of money impacting local communities. And if we can do it here, then brilliant. We'd probably follow that up with serving up there and packing canned goods in the fall if we can find a date, whether it be the fall or spring. But hopefully we get a chance to reach that, raise some money, and then get one of those big checks and send Logan Dix up to the Low Country Food Bank and donate that money. Certainly would be something that we could look back on. We like to joke with Logan that she would bump her head against the door and lack common sense, but then she'll probably split the atom again in 2 years or send someone to space just with how intelligent she is. So I'm excited to see what it can be done. I think we only released it yesterday. I'm going to donate this afternoon, and then I'll start to push it as well with some of those rich folks that I've met since I got to America. I could push it in Scotland, but I'm not sure we'll raise much money. We'll see.
Great. Getting down to the submitted questions now. What are some of the things that you and your staff have done over the years to get the program to be more competitive in the SoCon and the region? You've kind of touched a little bit on it, but what are some of the like nuts and bolts that you've done to change the culture a little bit?
The big one, as you said, I've already touched on. Depth was the biggest one. Not having enough kids. Maybe being seen as a sport that just exists as part of a department because we're a female sport and we bring females to the institution. That was the big one. You got to try and make yourself relevant on your own campus before you start to make it inroads in the conference or in the region. We did that obviously by recruitment, getting those kids in the door, getting a roster size up, and then getting some support on campus. Once you start to get some success, more people come and support you. I think of the 25 games we've won in the last couple of years, I think 16 of them have been Division 1 wins, and of that 16, maybe 7 or 8 have been new Division 1 wins, so first for the programme. That certainly makes you more relevant. But once you get those kids in the door, that can't just be it. You've then got to provide, and I think I mentioned that earlier as well, that the experience that you give them is key. So if we want to compete with ETSU or Sanford or Furman, then we've got to see what they're doing. So they have large rosters, but how are they treating their kids? How are they making it competitive? We've probably enhanced our training environment beyond anything that it was 3 years ago. We now track more data. We now do more video analysis. We do more individual video analysis. And we have more staff members to be able to do that. Having a GA, having Hayden in there as a second assistant has been very beneficial. We can break stuff down separate from what we're doing as a team, and there can be one-on-one interaction on where am I going wrong and where can I improve. We can do that separate with the goalkeepers now because we have 3 staff members, and then we can gear all our training sessions to be as realistic as possible for what the game actually provides, because we have the numbers to go 11 versus 11 and then still have some subs on the sideline, so we can recreate different scenarios almost like you would do on a football field. I think back 3 years ago, we did pre-season, and I had Mike Morgan, who was a strength and conditioning coach. He played in the first 11v11 scrimmages that we had. I had Chris Beretta, who was in the ticket office. He played in the game. And I remember going around campus saying, I wonder if anybody's played high school soccer that could just come out and serve as a body so that I can get a starting 11 on the field and then piece them up against another 11. I played in that game. I'll never forget it because I could hardly walk after it. And I think my 2 assistants at the time also played in the game in August in 95-degree heat. We're just a million miles away from that. That alone cannot be the experience that we provide kids, even though it's fun and even though they appreciate those people helping out. I think if you ask a player on the team right now, would you rather play against the strength and conditioning coach in pre-season, who at the time was a 35-year-old man, or would you rather play against one of your peers, someone who's right there neck and neck, who's competing for your position? Then you do that. But I think the things we've implemented, the training environment, the improvements in strength and conditioning, the one-on-one interaction, the video analysis, the ability to track training load, how much distance is a kid covering on a daily basis, how much are they covering on a weekly basis, how much are they covering in comparison to other Division 1 athletes in our sport. We have that data real time now, and we can see not only what's going on between us and, say, another school in our conference or a player on our team versus another player on our team. We can start to create data points where we can look at where kids 2 years ago in our programme performed in terms of distance covered and high intensity sprints and basically their heart rate for the week. We can now look at that 2 years down the line and say, we have moved on with the type of kid we have in our programme, or we have developed the same kid, but they're now giving us much more of an output. It's as close to a professional environment as you can find, in my opinion. Go right back to the point I made about coming over here. I thought it was an amazing opportunity just to come to this country and be a scholarship athlete. We didn't have anywhere close to what we provide our kids now. A lot of those things would have been completely alien to our programme and the players at the time. If my coach told me in 2003 that he was about to track my heart rate and distance, I don't think I would have trusted a word he told me. Whereas now, that's the expectation. You know, to raise money, to be able to do those extra things, and to be able to walk into another facility with brand new equipment, state-of-the-art facility, state-of-the-art equipment with you to track data live and then break down games on camera, to have ESPN stream every game that we have. I mean, that is it. That is the pinnacle for me as a Division 1 athlete. So we're there, but you've got to back it up with wins and you've got to back it up with success.
Another question we had was, what is the off-season training like for the spring? And then what's it like when you send them off into the world for their summers and then bring them back?
Off-season is enjoyable. We do about 6 weeks in January where we break them into small groups. It's almost position-specific, and we work on things that we feel like we could have improved on the fall. Or we try and get some of the newer kids up to speed once the older players are gone. Just really focus and give them individual attention. Once that 6 weeks is up, when you get to the end of February, we have 5 play dates in the spring. I think we were 3 down based on our calendar before everybody had to go home. We lost to Queen's, we beat College of Charleston, and then we lost to Georgia Southern at home. But it was excellent. We were probably in the best position we'd been in as a group, just with the environment. There was a lot of camaraderie between the group, and then there was a higher level of physical fitness than there has ever been since I got here. So the girls were excited to really show that throughout the spring and then peak probably right at the end. I think our last game was scheduled to be Coastal Carolina away from home on the 20th of April. It would have been nice to see, like, where are we at physically? This is absolutely beyond anything we've ever been. And then you send them off into the big bad world and see what they do there. For me, something that we can't control, obviously, is what they do on their own. I wouldn't say my biggest pet peeve, but probably my biggest disappointment in the current group is that we haven't had enough kids come back and take care of business in the summer. We have a handful that you can always rely on. This is not unique to the Citadel either. This is across the board in every programme, and it's the same in every programme I've been in. You can count, usually on one hand, the kids that will come back fully prepared and ready to go. Then there's a group that maybe done a little bit, should have done a little bit more, and you're relying on them. And then there's kids that just didn't do what they're supposed to do. And in the past, it's been hard for us with the numbers and the lack of depth to really hold them to a higher standard and say, if you didn't do the work, then you're going to be removed from what we're doing until you get to that point. It's probably the first year where we're able to do that, but we're probably in a more mature position as a group where I think instead of having a handful of kids that do what they're supposed to do, we'll have probably 15 to 18 that come in and pass the fitness test straight off the bat. And then we'll have more people really close to getting there, probably less injuries in pre-season, and then a really good chance to be successful in the first couple of pre-season games before we get going for real. If there's any delay in the season, if the kickoff date, start date, whatever you call it, goes into mid-September, which is an option that's been discussed, then that will give us 6 weeks, assuming we start pre-season August 4th, 6 weeks to really get our players fully fit. That would be something really new. That means every programme would really be in peak physical condition when you start a season. And for a season like ours, where you play Friday, Sunday, back-to-back, and you're asking your kids to play back-to-back 90 minutes, it probably shouldn't be done, and we still do it when we're probably one of the only sports that would be asked to do that. It would be interesting to see how we handle that, knowing that we have more players capable of being able to do it, and everybody else also has more players capable of doing it. There would be less injuries for sure, because you're not putting kids through the ringer twice a weekend. But ultimately for us, we made more of a focus this spring on being more physically fit, with the intention of really upping the ante in the summer. With the control that we have very little control over what to do, and then the relationships they have with strength and conditioning. The feedback has been constant. Make sure you're doing this. Make sure you're preparing. there's no point in me talking about this big plan that we've had since I got here and developing kids and getting to their senior year to get to a point in August where people have just kind of taken their foot off the gas and are looking towards graduation as really the pinnacle of what this experience has provided. I really don't see many in the whole roster, or if it is 33, who are coming in here with maybe one eye off the ball, one eye on the ball. I think everybody is extremely focused, which is why we're excited and why this downtime from March through to now has really slowed us down, because I thought the momentum was fantastic before the breakdown here. So we'll see how it looks, but at least I've got witnesses here where I fully believe that we are going to be very, very strong in the fall. If that doesn't happen, then you can call for my head, or you can come and ask me what happened. But I think myself, the staff, and everybody that's been around the programme for several years, including the players, I think they know we've now reached a point, not of no return, but we've reached a point where we should always be in a position, no matter who we play against on any given day, home or away, we've got a chance of winning the game. And I don't think we've been able to say that at any point since I got to the Citadel. I feel like that'll be true this fall. There won't be one place that we will fear, and there won't be one team that comes here that we don't feel like we've got the upper hand, and we've got to go set the tone, implement a style of play, get after it, and have the kids fully believe in what we're trying to do. There'll be more chance of success now than there ever has been.
That's great. And now what we'll do is we'll take about 10 minutes and we'll open it to questions for those of you that are on the call. Just a reminder, you are currently muted, so please unmute yourself, introduce yourself so that we can see who's talking, ask your question, and then if you'll kindly mute yourself again so that Coach can answer. So we'll go ahead and open it up.
This is Kevin in the athletics department. I got in a little late, so just curious, what are you hearing from around the country as a start date? Is there anything? Is the season moving back? I know you mentioned maybe 5-6 minutes ago there's a chance that it could be a September or late September start. What are you hearing?
That was the most recent thing I'd heard. It was, I think, one of the models that they put together on the recent NCAA call, one of maybe 10 scenarios that they would look at, some starting on time, some starting a few days late, a week late, whatever. But there's been more and more rumblings in the background with other coaches who are saying, have you heard that this is the one they're really looking at? And I was like, I have not heard anything. But that one that people are focusing on is I think it's a 6-week re-socialization period is what they call it, or something along those lines, which would take us to, I think, September 15th or 16th is the first actual play date. I don't know if that's first regular season or first pre-season match, but that's a long time, and obviously very unusual for us, who typically, I think this year our first pre-season game was August 11th. It's 5 weeks beyond that. It's harder for us, for sure. It's harder for the incoming freshmen, who are so used to, that they're in this intense and fiery environment for the first week, and then it slows down a little bit and they get some pre-season under their belt and their minds shift back towards why they were there, to play soccer, to do this, to do that. And then season kicks in, and before you know it, it's Thanksgiving. It would be a bit more like basketball, where you come in and you wait and you wait and you wait, and then thank God October's here or November's here and we get to kick off, or we get to tip off. I just don't know how it will go. I just know across the country, some people have been impacted. Even College of Charleston, they no longer have a regular season or a regular season conference schedule. I think they're playing 12 games for women's soccer, and they'll all be non-conference. And then RPI will decide who goes to the tournament, which is very difficult. You would probably start changing your schedule quickly to make sure that your RPI looks really good. But also you have to win those games. It's no use just playing better teams and losing them all. That would be tough. I'm thankful we're in the SoCon. What it looks like geographically, that we're still having a regular season. The only change has been that we go to 4 teams for the conference tournament versus the original 10 where everybody went. If we move to September 16th as a start date, so be it. We'll adjust like we always would at the Citadel. There's always something changing at the Citadel, even though it's almost 200 years old or whatever. There's always a change. Something gets thrown in, you think you're practicing, and then you're not. Something else is happening. So we'll adjust. But right now, my focus is on being back. Challenge week at the end of July, pre-season August 4th, and then get our kids ready to go and embark on a very, very good season. But not everybody is in a position to say that. Fortunately, we're in a good position, but obviously some programs have been cut in our conference, not for soccer, but other ones, and several men's soccer programs, Cincinnati, App State, which have been highlighted in the media. It's a very difficult time for people. I guess I could answer Paul from the chat, even though it's not a question. He just said that he was in the National Guard in Rome, Georgia, and Rome sucks, which was why I should appreciate Charleston. I guess my comment on that is I appreciated Rome for what it provided and the experience I had there, but I think 7 years was plenty. And now in Charleston, it's very easy to look back on it and probably agree with your sentiment on that.
One of our another submitted question that we didn't really get to, wanted to make sure we had time for those on to answer, but what's your specific coaching style? From a tactical perspective, are you more Guardiola, or are you more, I think the name is Allardyce or something in between?
Sam Allardyce. Who submitted that question? Good question anyway. I think the reason that's a good question is we have adjusted so many times. Obviously, with the resources we have, the amount of players. I think when I got here, our first season, for people that know the tactical approach to soccer, we were very cautious and we played 4-4-2, which is known as a traditional, very conservative formation in the game. And we were very specific about areas where we felt like we might be able to win the ball and areas where we felt like, let's just let them have it and we will sit and wait until they get to a certain area of the field and then we might be able to try and get the ball off of them. So we've shifted from that 4 years ago. The reason we did that is obviously we couldn't make any subs, so there was no point in a kid breaking out of a tight unit to chase the ball, not get it, and then run back in and then have to keep doing that and never really get any success. So it was a case of rest and recover, and when your opportunity comes to try and win the ball, then go win the ball. We've shifted that to now where we're at as a programme. It's basically go hunt in packs. Go get the ball. It doesn't matter if it's in the middle of the field. It doesn't matter if the goalkeeper's just played it out to the centre back. We want to press the game high up the field, especially at home, where there is some comfort for the kids. They know the distance from the halfway line to the box. Our field is a little bit tighter, a little bit smaller than some of the other fields we play on. The kids can manipulate that. And if we're very specific about how we coach and how we press the game, we can dictate what happens. And that's the one we've tried to drill in. We want to dictate what happens on our field. And, I think all coaches would say that. They want to have the upper hand and they want to dictate what happens. And if usually that is the case, you probably are going to have a better outcome than not at the end of the day. You're probably going to score more goals, you're probably going to concede less goals, and your players are going to make it very difficult for the opposition. I feel like we already have an upper hand when kids come to Charleston. We're travel partners with Mercer. If you play Mercer on a Friday and you're coming to us on Sunday, the kids know typically it would get the hard game out the way on the Friday. We'll go beat the Citadel on the Sunday. We'll get ourselves a nice resort on the beach. We'll let our kids have fun on the beach. We'll pick up 3 points against Citadel and then we'll get back on the bus. Our kids kind of get away from that, saying we don't want that to be the case. It's going to be hot. It's going to be difficult. If you can add that final piece of press the game and make it very difficult for them so that they feel under pressure, maybe when they've already took their eye off the ball, we can dictate what happens and we can win a lot of games in and out of conference. So we were doing really well at that. I think it was one of the main reasons we beat College of Charleston in the spring. I've not beat College of Charleston since I've been here. We didn't just beat them, it was extremely dominant. And it was extremely dominant because of that. We didn't give them a second. They came in a little bit relaxed. And once they were in that mentality of, this is a lot more difficult than I originally thought it would be, our kids could sense it. And we made it more and more challenging for them as the game went on. To do that over 90 minutes back to back in the fall is going to be harder. But having the squad and the depth to do it is ultimately why we want to implement that shift from being all the way back there to a team that just goes and hunts and packs and tries to get the ball and tries to attack and get numbers forward and do it with a little bit more risk than we've ever done. So you move away from a cautious approach to one where we want to get our special players on the ball. We want to send support in numbers. and we want to entertain. If you're going to sit at WLI Field on a Sunday and it's 95 degrees and it's hot and your kid's feeling a wee bit down after Friday or whatever it may be, or has had a tough week, we still want to go out there and put on a show for parents, fans, anybody, recruits that come here. We want them to watch and say, I'm so glad I watched that game today. We were good. And I think in the past, it's always been known that the Citadel is a hard-working group, and people say, you'll leave there and you might win the game comfortably, but you'll have felt that they worked and emptied the tank. We want to do that as well as play entertaining soccer for the fans that sit in the sun all there for 90 minutes. We're almost at that point, as I've said before in the call. We have special players, we have depth, we have quality, we have experience. The kids have a clear understanding of the playing style, what we're asking them to do when they have the ball and what we're asking them to do when they don't have the ball. And now it's just a case of getting it all into action. Maybe one benefit we'll have is, I think David mentioned this on the volleyball chat, that not many programs are going to have their kids back on campus doing summer classes and doing in-person workouts with their strength and conditioning coaches. Everybody's going to be starting on an even slate come August because all their kids are going to have done the work on their own at home. It's very typical that, just like football and basketball here at the Citadel, a lot of the higher-end Division 1 colleges for women's soccer bring their kids back July 1. We never bring our kids back July 1. We want them to enjoy their summers, take care of business on their own, and then come back here in August ready to go. This will be the year where everybody's on an even slate, and it just so happens to be the year where we will have a lot of 21 and 22-year-olds on our roster, which is good.
All right, we got time for one last question, and it's from our chat. The three other major sport booster clubs all have their needs outlined. What would you say your top two needs for the team are?
Good question. Needs and wants. I've been pretty clear, maybe not to everybody that's on here, but anybody I've had an opportunity to speak with in person, and certainly the foundation and the athletic director, the one outstanding item that we need to really say that we provide the best experience is lights. We need lights on WLI Field. If we don't have lights, we're at a disadvantage playing 3 p.m. on a Friday afternoon in direct competition with the parade, which obviously is a negative on our part. We would never want to go up against parade. We would prefer our kids to be in parade. We would like to coexist where we can commit to both, but then keep people on campus after parade because soccer kicks off at 7 p.m. on WLI Field under the lights, and keep some of the kids on campus. There is no soccer played downtown in Charleston. It doesn't exist on an evening. So if we were the only Division 1 team that played downtown under the lights on WLI Field, right on the banks of the Ashley River, it's a unique setting and one that could become a real force for us to defend our home field and give us real home field advantage. We've looked at it the past couple of years. We had, I think, a group of alumni donated $50,000 to us that helped us get that locker room renovation, and that was huge. I mean, that was a real boost of confidence for us as a staff, saying we can get something done, even though lights are up there in the 300,000 range. It's not out of the question, but I've been talking about it since I got here, and now I'm about to lose this senior class, and they're probably not going to see the benefit of that. I would like this next cycle of kids coming in as freshmen in 2020 to, at some point in their career here, to experience that under the light, Friday night light feeling of playing a soak-on match and just having that. It should be the case. You know, we go to UNCG and play under the lights on Friday. Our kids love it. You can just sense the feeling that I'm playing at the highest level. I'm under the lights. It's on ESPN. Even though we have a lot of the benefits of what the other programs have, I think at this stage, ourselves and VMI are the only two teams in the conference that don't have lights. So that's tough. The other one, maybe not a need, but certainly a want. I've been looking at an international trip since I got here. I've been waiting till I had a full roster so that it made sense cost-wise, where we were limiting how much came out of pocket. I would like to take the brand of who we are as an institution, almost like how special the school sees when the band goes over to Scotland every summer or every couple of summers. It's a huge deal. I think this year obviously was sin-binned after a while when everybody got told to stay at home, but the general was looking into chartering his own plane if he could get enough people to do it, to go with the band and go over to Scotland. And I thought, that's amazing. We certainly are not looking to charter a plane to take kids over, but we'd love to take the brand of the Citadel to Spain or Costa Rica or, you know, anywhere. Give our kids that one-time experience. You can do it every 4 years per NCAA rules. I don't really care where it would be, to be honest. It'd be a special thing for the kids, special thing for the staff, and showing our brand somewhere else in a different country, who we are, doing some community work while we're there, spreading information about why we exist and what our goals are at the Citadel, and then giving the kids a soccer experience in another country. I think is invaluable. And there's schools that do this every 4 years because they can afford to do it. We certainly have never done it. I don't think it's been done since the programme existed. I would like 2-3 years from now to take our group somewhere just to really put the icing on the cake for recruitment and for what we say is the student-athlete experience. If I'm going to talk about that as the highest of what Division 1 offers, that's something that currently we've not been able to provide or really even had conversations with the players about. You certainly don't want to bring it up and get them excited and then they graduate and the next year everybody goes for a 2-week vacation in Spain. But there is going to be someone that loses out on that, the graduating class, right before we go on that international trip, if it exists. But I'm sure they would also be very happy that the Citadel got to that point, or the Citadel Women's Soccer Programme got to the point where they could do that.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your time today, Coach. Just as a reminder for everybody on this call, next week, same day, Wednesday at 12:30, we will have men's tennis coach Chuck Creasy on. And then in 2 weeks, it'll be head men's basketball coach Duggar Baucom on. Coach, again, thank you for your time. Thank you for all the insight into the program, and good luck this season.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Millage. I appreciate it.